Mike Murray.
This is
SNL.
SNL.
By the numbers.
Numbers.
Christmas time is here with Maya, Kate, and Kristen. Pongo, give me paw. There's the opening haiku for you. We are covering episode 956 of Saturday Night Live, hosted by Kate McKinnon with musical guest Billie Eilish. Welcome back to the program. I am Mike Murray of the SNN, joined again by Victoria Franso. Victoria, great to see you. Merry Christmas. How are you?
Merry Christmas. I'm great. I'm excited to talk about such a very fun show with two of my favorite alums stopping by. It's the best Christmas gift I've ever gotten, really.
Love that for you. I mean, that's Christmas hasn't come yet, but Victoria got her best gift. And I'm joined again by my day one. Jon Schneider is back on BTN. This is our 39th go at this show. He's been with me for a lot of them. Welcome back, John. Great to see you.
Oh, great to see you, Mike. Wow, that's a big number. What are we gonna do for the 40th? We'll have to talk about that. But very exciting. When Victoria said she was so happy to celebrate Christmas with her two favorite, I thought she was gonna say podcasters.
Oh.
So me and you, but she went Kristen and Maya, who are fantastic. But really,
I don't think I need to say it out loud. I think it goes without showing.
Or
I
saying.
think that's what that's saying. Yeah, saying is the term there. But
That's
Victoria,
saying.
first of all, let me just say, Victoria, you have been a fantastic co-host with Mike so far in the fall. So all the listeners out there in listener land, big round of applause for Victoria, really helping out Mike. And Mike, I got to listen to all the shows that I wasn't on, and loving all the stats this year. So I'm excited to wrap up season 49A with both of you tonight.
Yeah, this has been probably my favorite season so far as the stat guy. It's just been like storylines galore. So it's been wicked fun to just look at all of them and see how everything's changing, because I think this season doesn't really have an identity yet. I don't know, John, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would say probably least has the least amount of identity since the start of us podcasting. I mean, 46 was the clear like COVID season. I think 47 was the goodbye to a lot of longtime cast members. Season 48 was clearly the start of a new era and like losing Cecily. And I still think season 49 is trying to figure it out. I think the remnants of being off for so long on the strike led to a pretty inconsistent first half of the season so far. But that's not to say that they can't figure it out. And there were some really high highs as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing what we're going to get in the new year for sure.
Yeah, I don't even say that as a negative thing. I just think that last season podcasting on By the Numbers, I was searching for that like through line, and I think we got some with the newbies, and like there was a lot of like great camaraderie, I think, that we hadn't seen in a while, because people had been there so long and people had come in and out, some like one season wonders and some people who didn't stay long, or some holdover from the previous era. Like we saw Kristen Wiig, who was with like Kate for 8 episodes or so. So there was like a mixture of that. And then it finally felt like we had a new SNL era upon us. And now we're in the sophomore year of that era. And it just seems like I don't really know how to put my finger on the season yet, but I've enjoyed it. So I'm excited about season 49B, and I'm satisfied with season 49A. But let's talk about the Kate McKinnon episode, because this is an episode, John, that me and you have been talking about for a long time. And it finally came. It was on the TV at 11:30 Eastern time. And I'm like, what are we going to get tonight? A lot of things to expect. And let's look at the screen time from that episode, because going in, you could maybe predict, about cameos and maybe former castmates of Kate's that we're going to see a lot. But across the board, there's a couple surprises here. So, Victoria, why don't you take it away and let the people know what the screen time totals were?
All right. Our host, Kate McKinnon, leads the way at 26 minutes and 5 seconds. Then following up is Billie Eilish, not eyelash, at 11 minutes and 33 seconds. Then there's Michael Che at 6 minutes and 32 seconds. Colin Jost at 6 minutes and 8 seconds, Bowen Yang at just a solid 6 minutes. And that's perfect, just as he is. Chloe Feynman starts the fives out at 5 minutes and 25 seconds. James Austin Johnson at 5 minutes and 9 seconds. Queen Maya Rudolph joins us here on this list at 5 minutes and 3 seconds, followed by another queen, Kristen Wiig, at 5 minutes and 5 minutes. A little lower on this list than usual. We have Kenan Thompson at 4 minutes and 26 seconds, Mikey Day at 4 minutes and 21 seconds, Phineas, who we all know is Billie Eilish's brother, at 3 minutes and 56 seconds. Surprised and see him show up in a sketch with her as well, but nonetheless. Then we have Heidi Gardner at 3 minutes and 11 seconds. I'm sorry, we have Ego Wodum at 3 minutes and 48 seconds, then Heidi Gardner at 3 minutes and 11 seconds. Molly Carney, we got some little more time this week with them at 3 minutes and 1 second. Andy Dismukes at 2 minutes and 55 seconds. The one and only Sarah Squirm, aka Sarah Sherman, at 2 minutes and 40 seconds. Chloe Trost, 2 minutes and 38 seconds. Then we have my little prince, Marcelo Hernandez, at 2 minutes and 10 seconds. And then we start the ones off with Punky Johnson. Bummer for me, but nonetheless, she did a great job in the episode at 1 minute and 31 seconds. Devin Walker at 1 minute and 25 seconds. Daphne Skeeter at 1 minute and 1 second. Then we have less than a minute with Michael Longfellow at 36 seconds. Steve Higgins at 29 seconds. The legendary and iconic Paula Pell at 25 seconds. Don't blink because you may have missed Greta Gerwig at 14 seconds. And then my buddy, my pal, who doesn't know I exist, former Mets bucket hat guy, if you know, you know, Mike DeCenzo at 4 seconds.
I do know Mets bucket hat guy. Maybe my favorite Jimmy Fallon segment. So good shout out to that character, because that was, I just somehow was always watching live when that happened and was like jumped out of my chair to see Mike DeCenzo on the Tonight Show. So John, you were with us for the first show with Pete Davidson and then Timothy Chalamet. So this is the biggest episode of the year, I would say. What are your hot takes looking at the screen time?
Well, I think that's a huge number from Kate McKinnon, Mike. So
Huge.
In all the episodes you've done, where does that rank among host screen time? Do you have that handy with you?
I do. This is the 13th highest screen time I've ever recorded and 8th highest if you eliminate double duty. So that's
okay.
That means Kate's
Pretty
like
high.
Easily top 10. So I should say top percent of like the 105 or so episodes that I have. And like I said, if you eliminate the double duty, then she's 8th overall.
Yeah, incredible.
And highest
stuff
of this
to go
season,
up.
you know?
For sure. Exactly what you would expect from Kate McKinnon. Now, what's interesting here is that appearance-wise, we didn't, we were sort of comparing and talking about how this episode related to the Will Forte episode in 47, which was a unicorn episode where we didn't have cast members who appeared any more than 2 times in the show. That wasn't this week. Like, for example, Chloe Feynman, 6 sketches, James Austin Johnson, 4 sketches and 2 voiceovers. So there were appearances, but I do think that the screen time would indicate like a little bit of a deeper dive into the analytics of the week here, where we have no regular cast member. So you're excluding the host, the musical guest, Justin Che from Weekend Update, and any cameos. You have no regular cast member that has more than 6 minutes on the show. That has to be pretty low in terms of all of the episodes that you've done, having no cast member more than 6 minutes on the show. So that really, really stands out to me here.
Definitely. I feel like everybody got fed, as I think you said on the Hot Take show, John, right? It's everybody appeared at least twice. So with the Will Forte, like you mentioned, people were seen not at all or once or twice, and that was Max. And I also want to point out that I mentioned that there's like an unbeatable record. We're going to talk about some alumni episodes later. I think it's an unbeatable record with Jason Sudeikis, who logged 34 minutes of screen time in his hosting stint. And Kate left a little bit on the table because in the North Pole sketch, she logged 1 minute 28. and in the Pongo pre-tape, 23 seconds. So in just those two, if you swap those out for some Kate-led pieces, she could have been closer to 30 minutes, which, and again, Sudeikis is number one with 34, and no one's reached 30 since. So not only is he above 30, but he's 34 minutes flat. So I was thinking that if anyone could challenge that, it would be Kate. And I wouldn't be surprised when she hosts again that she even beats this record if it's not a Christmas show with more cameos. So there was that storyline going in for me is just seeing like how close will she get. Go ahead, John.
Well, I was gonna say, yeah, if she was in the cold open, like that Newsmax Christmas cold open was supposed to be the cold open this week, and it was switched partway through the week. If she was playing Giuliani in the cold open, as they originally scheduled it out, and then made some changes probably for the best, that would mean we get Kate in the cold open as well. There was no Kate on Weekend Update plan, but we had Jason in the cold open and updated that episode, so that makes a huge difference for sure. So something to think about. I would say that if I had to point out, I'll go like one positive and one negative here. I do think that Chloe Fineman really should get a lot of praise for some of the work that she's done in season 49A. I think she was really, really strong in that Pongo sketch and just all over the episode. I thought she was great in the Gifts from Mom sketch as well, just playing like basically like I think Chloe is really at her best when she's playing the secondary role in the sketch, or as Mike would say, is the B role. So I think that Chloe is really great at that stuff, and she's really proving that she has a place here. On the downside, something I sort of expected would happen this episode is Heidi Gardner getting only 3 minutes and 11 seconds and not appearing in anything besides a brief pre-tape appearance and the cold open. I sort of expected that because I would say, and Mike, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Kate McKinnon was probably the biggest block for Heidi's screen time during her time as a cast member. I think that like once Kate leaves the show, it's very clear that Heidi then steps into a lot of roles in that sense. So maybe they're not one for one archetypes, but I do believe that like Kate was the starter, Heidi was a little bit of the backup, and now that Kate came back, you see how Heidi's screen time dipped tremendously.
I would say Cecily more than Kate, but I totally agree
Okay.
because we had, three of the strongest women of the past 25 years at the cast at the same time with Heidi coming up. So the fact that Heidi's blowing up is no surprise with them gone now. And Heidi, and you mentioned Chloe Fineman, so shout out to her too. Heidi and Chloe are tied for second with J.A.J. with 30 appearances this year, and only behind Mikey with 34. So that's huge right now. We're 8 episodes in, 30 appearances. It just shows that they're getting like the lion's share of those like A and B roles. And yeah, I totally agree with that take, John, that Chloe Fineman is a perfect cast member to just plug in because, I mean, this is kind of a bad thing to say, but a lot of times I forget that Chloe's in a sketch, but it's almost like an offensive lineman in football that you don't notice them unless they really mess up because Chloe's always so great as a supporter. Victoria, anyone you want to highlight on this list that you really enjoyed, or, I know people you want to see more, but people that we did see, what did you like?
Yeah, I was going to say one, it was a pleasant but not too much of a surprise to see Billie Eilish in Whiskers Are We. I really love that she came in not only like I think that was also an opportunity for perhaps someone else, like a regular cast member, to be on there, but considering that time went to Billie, but I don't mind it at all. Billie's a great friend to the show and just a great, player when it comes to being on SNL. I do want to highlight I have to I mean, this is so cliche, I guess, but, like, Michael Che and Colin Jost, their joke swap was the highlight of the night for me, and Michael Che playing that prank on Colin was one of the best things, so and because of that joke swap, I'm not surprised that they're 3rd and 4th on this list, but shout out to them.
Yeah, and speaking
And I'm
of,
sorry. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
no, go ahead, Victoria.
I was gonna say, I'm sorry your wish didn't come true.
Well, we're going to talk about that in a second. But
Yeah.
I want to say Billie Eilish, just because she did double duty, and this is now her 3rd time as musical guest, including that appearance as double duty. As I was looking back on all my 6 seasons of data, and Billie Eilish has the 32nd most screen time of anyone on SNL in the past 6 seasons. So like adding that all up, she's like up to like 47 minutes. So I think Billie Eilish is like a front runner for like SNL Hall of Fame status because she's already checked off double duty. And I don't talk about music on the show, especially as a musician myself, but all 6 of her performances I think have been like 10 out of 10. So I just want to highlight that. And yeah, Billie
I
Eilish
have to
has
take
always
that she
been.
reminds me a lot of Miley Cyrus.
Yeah, I think Billie might be even above Miley, but definitely on that Miley trajectory as far as like friend of the show.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't mean like they have the same music. Like I'm not talking music. I'm just saying from like a pure SNL analyst perspective. I think like SNL, every generation, every era is always looking for some musicians to be friends of the show. And I think that Billie like falls into that place with this era where they can get her back when they need her. Like I wouldn't be stunned if Billie Eilish was a musical guest on the 50th anniversary show.
Oh, big time. I mean, we saw Taylor Swift pop up in the Californians at SNL 40, and I would imagine Billie Eilish. I mean, I guess anybody at that point, because it'd be 50 years, but that would be somebody if I had to make a short list of like musical guests to appear in that 50, I would definitely put Billie on my list. And yeah, I just love, go back and watch Bad Guy with the spinning stage and I Love You with her and Phineas. That was so great. And then was it Male Fantasy and forget the other song. And then this one doing What Was I Made For? Love that. I was excited to watch that 2 or 3 times more. And then, shout out to just doing a Christmas song on the Christmas episode, which I think is always fun and killed it. So huge Billie Eilish fan here. And my commentary on the screen time, we had Molly making their 50th appearance in the episode of their career. So congrats to them. Devin Walker is 10 seconds shy of hitting an hour. So we'll see that in the new year. Chloe Feynman making her 250th career appearance in the North Pole News sketch. And this is Heidi's 6th cold open. So leading the cast. I don't think I think we would have predicted maybe Bowen or JAJ, but Heidi's been in 6 out of 8. And Mikey Day leads the cast in first sketches. I think that was one of the first questions I ever got as like the SNL stat guy was Mikey Day is like always in the first sketch, right? Like, can you do a stat about that? And every year it's kind of like, oh yeah, Mikey Day does lead the first sketch often. So let's talk about Michael Che, Colin Jost, leading the cast in screen time, all-time joke swap, and the long runner of By the Numbers talking about will they, won't they leave at Christmas. And of course, going in, I had like butterflies in my stomach. Ego had a great piece at the desk. I think it was Ego's best appearance on Weekend Update. Loved it the second time. First time, I was like, all right, Ego, we got to see what's going to happen. So let's wrap this up. And I think it would be a fantastic last episode for them. John, would you agree?
Oh, it would have been, but I'm still waiting for your apology to the listener. So I hope that's what's about to come.
I mean, my goal is to only inform and entertain, so no apology from me coming, but I do think the door is still open for them to leave. I don't know. What do you think?
Between now and January 20th, you're saying?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think if any people forget that a lot of SNL cast members have left silently. There's not always a Kristen Wiig slow dance at the end of the show. People leave with no fanfare. So if anyone was to do that, I think it would be them because I don't think that's their style to do that. I think if anything is against my argument, it's the fact that Kate was there and Kate didn't do anything with them. So that goes against that argument. But I do think there's a possibility that it could still happen. I'm saying the percentage is now way down, but I think that would be a hell of a send-off.
Victoria, I think Mike is burying the lead here. The headline of the story is that Mike got a prediction wrong, is it not?
Yes. Sorry, there's something in my throat. But yes.
Yeah. Mike, I love the enthusiasm. I love that you make predictions. That's the fun of it. We can guess all this stuff and never know the truth about what's really happening over there. But you were wrong. I don't think they're leaving. I think they're sticking it out. And I think, in fact, this was the only opportunity for them to depart prior to May of 2025. So they're in it now.
I mean, I agree. I think it's way more likely that they stay now. I I have to say though, the take. Well, first of all, John, thank you very much because predictions are fun and they keep the listeners listening and the hype train moving. So no, I will never back down on that. But
I love it.
I will say I think I'm almost disappointed, not because I wanted to be right, of course, but just because I want them to have that kind of big send off and not get lost in 50. And as somebody who's very staunchly on the show, a big fan of Michael Che, especially, and having the leeway to do some like dark jokes and kind of go into some like territory that SNL does not like to tread in a lot. I think it's time for them to go because it's just they've done it all. They've left it all on the field or at the desk. And for them to go through another season and a half, I would hate to see more SNL fans be like calling for their dismissal. So, do you agree with that, John?
No, absolutely not. Honestly, I don't engage in I love you, Mike, but I don't engage in the whole like, oh, this cast member should leave. I think it's like some of the worst things that we do as an SNL fan community is encourage cast members to leave the show. Like, yes, in theory, would it be nice if cast members only stayed for 5 years and then we got to meet new people all the time? Sure, but like at the same time, like these are these people's jobs. Maybe they aren't going to have a career outside the show in the way that they wanted to. So if they want to stay on the show and they're good enough, I mean, like, look, at the end of the day, Michael Che and Colin Jost are some of, if not the best anchors that there have been. Are they at their peak? Are they in their prime? No. But can they get back to it? Can they, be reinvigorated by a 2024 election? That's still possible. So look, personally, I don't like engaging in the whole like, oh, it's this person's time to leave the show. I do think it is exciting. It is a natural, great part of being a fan of watching almost 50 years of Saturday Night Live is seeing people depart. But like, I personally, I'm never like predicting like, oh yeah, okay, like now it feels like the right time for this person.
I mean, I respect that, but at the same time, as an SNL fan, I always think, what about the people waiting on the bench? You know what I mean? There's just so many unknowns that we could get that I don't think I've ever been happy to see anyone leave the show, but I am excited for the possibility.
Right, but here's our problem: is that people will blame Jost and Che for that, and that's not their fault. Like if they're just too good at their jobs so that they won't leave. Like, if anything, like blame the system. Don't blame the people.
Oh, and you fully should. You know, don't blame the performer. They're giving it their all every week. But I think that there's so much left to be seen that we'll never see if there's not room for that. And like I said, other than the Norm era, which I was too young to experience in real time, so it's kind of a clouded memory because I've seen all of them, but I didn't watch them in real time. Like Jost and Che, I think, are like the best to ever do it, especially as a duo, which is hard to do. And it's crazy to think about like only one of them leaving or what it would look like post Jost and Che. It's like so familiar. But there's something about it that I think that there's another gear that SNL has not reached until we see what's next. And I'd rather see what's next and then think, wow, I really missed Jost and Che now. I know, Victoria, where do you land on this before we move on?
I was going to say there are a lot of POVs on this, all of them worth noting and come from a great place. As someone who would like to be on the show one day, knock, knock, God willing, like, yeah, I think here's my POV. I think that the show in its system, to John's point, should create moments and set those people up for success so that one, they get everything that they're able to get out of it. Everyone gets as much opportunity as they can. It's never going to be equal, right? There's always a star a little bit brighter than another. Nothing wrong with that. That's just how it works. That's how our solar system works too. But like, I think that it should be, as a show, like set up to where people can feel fulfilled after a certain amount of time so that we can get that new content and new energy. And as the times change, like, you don't want to be stuck in the same thing. That's not what the show is. So I think it should be ever evolving, but it's never, I don't mind if they said this cast is going to stay on the show for the rest of its, you know, time. I would be okay with that, but at the same time, fresh voices after a certain point are going to matter, are going to make or break it.
And then
Yeah, I
like
mean,
I'm okay with the idea of wanting fresh voices. Like, would I like to see them try other people at Update Decks? Absolutely, especially as like an analyst of the show. I love the fresh storylines. Like, this is I advocate for wanting fresh voices at Saturday Night Live. I love it when they bring in new cast members. We get to meet a Chloe Trost and get to learn what she could do on the show. All that stuff is super fun. All I'm saying is like I'm just trying to tell it like it is, which is that at one point SNL was a pipeline to go do bigger things outside of the show. For a lot of people who get on Saturday Night Live now, this is like they're there, they're working every week, they have screen time that goes out to millions of people every weekend, and they're like, this might be the best thing I ever do. And there's no system in place that's going to push them out. So unless we're going to get back to a place where Saturday Night Live is letting people go, which is, may happen in the next regime, but I just don't see like I guess I'm not, it's not, this is not a Mike Murray thing, but this is just a general, like my opinion of like taking in months and months of people being like, they need to go. Like, you can want fresh voices while also like understanding that like they may just like never want to leave.
That would be me. I would never want to leave. So
Yeah, Mike, you're on mute just so we can hear you.
I've been known to make a lot of sports comparisons because of the nature of this show, and there's one happening in my region right now with the New England Patriots, the greatest football team of all time, with maybe the greatest coach of all time, Bill Belichick. And the Patriots are having the worst season since the early 90s right now with him at the helm. And Bill Belichick is very famous, if you don't know him, as the coach of the New England Patriots, but also moving on from someone too early rather than too late. I don't think that's necessarily a great comp for this show with cast members, but it is something to be noted, at least on this program, because there are so many talented people within the cast, outside the cast. And again, not wishing for anyone to leave. I've never been happy to see someone leave, but there is something there though about having a legacy after the show and not tarnishing the legacy by staying on 1, 2, 3 years too long. And I think that's a fair take.
I'll wrap up my thoughts by just saying like I agree with what you're saying, except also there are plenty of examples of people who have stayed on longer maybe than we wanted them to and then improved their legacy at the show. Two of them on the cast right now in Mikey Day and Kenan Thompson, frankly, who if they both would have left after like 5 years, I think like everyone would just be like they're like, average cast members, maybe a little bit above average. And now they're, some of the greater ones. And I just think like you have to, like every case is different, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Every case is different. But while we're talking about Kate McKinnon, before we go into our next segment, there was definitely some palpable Kate burnout. As someone who does the stats, Kate dominated the show. Her last few seasons was like, if I look at my charts and I see screen time leader, it's Kate, Cecily, Keenan, Kate, Cecily, Kate, Keenan, Beck, Kate. It's literally Kate McKinnon everywhere. Every metric is Kate, and huge Kate fan here. But my last push of this argument is Kate leaving and coming back is so sweet to me. Seeing her do a monologue, getting to celebrate Kate McKinnon instead of having it be another SNL. I'm going to watch it no matter what, but someone like Kate McKinnon coming back to the show is so beautiful and wholesome to me that we wouldn't have got that had she not left after an incredible run.
Totally agree. Just I think Kate is a Kate and Cecily and probably 80 are unique situations compared to everywhere else, because it is a pretty well-known fact that they would have left at the end of 2020 if COVID didn't happen. So like they were all planning to leave then, like it was going to be a big goodbye, and all of those people were pushed another couple of years. So when that information came out, it was like, oh, they want to leave but they can't leave, and that is when I think the fatigue materializes within the fan base of like, well, why aren't you going if you wanted to go? Whereas we have not heard a peep from Justin Che about wanting to leave.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Che makes jokes about it all the time, so it'll be
That's
definitely
true,
funny.
actually. Yeah, I'll take it back. I take it. That's true. Yeah. All right, mea culpa. Take it back.
All right. Anyway, formal apology on behalf of John and everyone here, but there's still a little chance. So formal apology given. But I won't apologize if I've entertained you over the past 8 episodes of By the Numbers. Let's
No,
look
why we love
at. Yeah. Thank you, John. Love you too. On this day in SNL history, Victoria, can you give me some time travel music or a sound effect rather?
Unbreak my heart, say you love me again.
Okay, on this day in
Thank you,
SNL
Tony
history. On this day in SNL history, we have only a couple of shows very close to Christmas. So, season 1, episode 8, Candice Bergen became first person to host SNL twice, just 42 days after her first show. I can't imagine that ever happening again. But great that it was Candice. Great that we had, the first woman host also became the first 2-time host. That's awesome. She did Christmas Party with the Muppets. Season 6. We had David Carradine hosting. We had the second to last Mr. Bill. So we haven't seen Mr. Bill in about 43 years. Season 12, episode 8, William Shatner hosted. We had third edition of Nora Dunn and Jan Hook's Sweeney Sisters, and a great It's a Wonderful Life sketch, Dana Carvey as Jimmy Stewart, one of my favorites. And then finally, season 40, episode 10, Amy Adams with One Direction. Had Mike Myers as Dr. Evil in the cold open. And my personal favorite, I'm about to ask you guys your favorite Christmas sketches or pre-tapes, but it's a little inside if you haven't listened to the podcast, but Cecily as Sarah Koenig with Serial Christmas, one of my all-time favorite SNL things ever. I might be in like a very small minority, but that pre-tape, the Serial podcast about Santa, is unreal. And we had the second ever edition of Whiskers Are We. We just got the 8th version of it with Kate and Billy, and we had the 10th edition of Garth and Kat. So that was this day in SNL history. John, any remembrances of those episodes as someone who's seen them all?
Well, the Candice Bergen episode is really interesting because we've all seen the Winter Wonderland from all the Christmas specials, but they've actually never re-aired that episode in its entirety. It's one of the like 30-something episodes in the history of the show that's never re-aired on NBC. So I thought.
Any takes on why?
I once spoke about this to Andrew Dick. I forget why we speculated that they didn't. I think the episode was mid, maybe. But I don't remember.
Like the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Wizard of Oz was mid. One of my favorite lines from that episode.
F.U.G. Garland.
So good. So yes, I do remember that one. It's a really fun one. Of course, Dr. Evil appearing on Weekend Update in that Amy Adams episode. Of course, not Weekend Update. It was Cold Open, actually. Yeah, Cold Open for that episode was really funny because Dr. Evil is Lorne, right? That's what Mike Myers based the character on. So just to have that come full circle is really cool.
Yeah, and arguably one of the most iconic post SNL career characters, period. So 100%. I'll go to Victoria first. Do you have a favorite SNL Christmas moment, either a couple days ago or from 1975?
Both. No, my favorite Christmas episode has probably when Jimmy Fallon hosted December 17th, 2011. I think that was season 37, I believe. That's my favorite. You got the cold open of Boston Teens with Rachel Dratch and Amy Poehler. You got I Wish It Was Christmas Today. If anyone wants to sing it, feel free.
We don't have the licensing for that, but I would sing it otherwise.
I wish. Okay. And then
I'm more in a Tony Braxton mood.
Yeah, I'm getting a call from Tony Braxton's lawyers already. So
Yeah.
That wasn't Tony Braxton. That was Shmoni Schmaxton. Very different. And then you got like Weekend Update Joke Off with like Amy Poehler, Tina Fey, Jimmy Fallon at the desk with Seth Meyers, and then you got Michael Bublé duets. Like it was just one of my favorite episodes of all time. I think also when he hosted again when Jimmy Fallon hosted again 2 years later for the Christmas episode. Just very fun. I think he's a great host, and I wouldn't mind him coming back either.
agreed. Maybe one of top 5, top 3 Christmas episodes of all time. John, what about you? Favorite sketch or episode even?
Well, Matt Thomas Taylor in the chat, MTT, beat me to the punch, which was the 2006 Justin Timberlake Christmas episode. And holy crap, that episode was so good. It opens up with Santa's My Boyfriend, which we've all seen. So great to get legends, Amy, Kristen, Maya. A lot of Kristen and Maya talk, but yeah, just happy to have them together to open up that show. We also get like the mascot character that Justin Timberlake does, where he's like rapping and singing. We get a Target sketch. We get a Barry Gibb talk show. We get one of, I think, actually, honestly, one of the greatest musical performances in the history of the show, where Justin Timberlake does What Goes Around Comes Around, and he is so good with that episode. But of course, Dick in a Box is from that episode, and it's just like a absolute classic. It changed my life. So I never looked at boxes the same after that. And yeah, just incredible Christmas episode. One that I think about a lot.
Both great takes. I'll also mention the Martin Short because I love the Paul McCartney in that episode. So I did some Christmas SNL research here. So shout out to our friend Joel at SNL Archives, who is a great resource for this type of thing. And I wanted to talk about Kristen Wiig and Maya Rudolph, how they came back, and a little maybe confusing because they weren't close with Kate on the show. They weren't in the same era, but at the same time, just legendary cast members, period. And of course, legendary women of the show that, I mean, hard to find an SNL fan who doesn't like Kristen Wiig, Maya Rudolph, and Kate McKinnon. So I wanted to ask you guys what you're looking for in a Christmas episode, because I think I used to kind of not be too keen on cameo stats, but this season I've kind of been more into it because we had like a really hot start with it. And Christmas for me on SNL is give me the cameos like all day. Like I want everyone coming home to the show, either friends of the show, former cast members. And my biggest find today doing this was Maya Rudolph has been in a lot of Christmas shows. So I have on the screen the last 20 Christmas shows and who cameoed and how many of them were cast members, because I think it's the perfect time for people to come back to 8H. Maya Rudolph cameoed in the Kate episode, of course. Kristen Wiig's 2020 Christmas episode in 46. She cameoed with the Tina and Amy episode in season 41. And also cameoed in the 08 Christmas episode that was hosted by Hugh Laurie. Was in the one more here. But I was like, wow, I guess Maya Rudolph coming to Christmas at SNL is a thing that I never really realized, because I'm always excited to see her. Anyway, I have all the cameos. The most was Eddie Murphy's. He had 9 cameos. 6 of them were cast members. So Fred Armisen, Rachel Dratch, Tracy Morgan, Chris Rock. Oh, there's the other Maya I was looking for. And Sudeikis. And Jimmy Fallon had 7 cameos, 6 casts as well. Rachel Dratch, Tina Fey, Chris Kattan, Tracy, Amy, and Horatio. And Martin Short had 8 and 4 cameos from cast, which were Jimmy, Tina, Paul Schaefer, and Kristen Wiig. So I love a Christmas cameo. Victoria, what about you?
The C in Christmas is for cameo. I would think so. No, that's truly the greatest gift I feel I can get on a Christmas episode, is to get those cameos. They are just so fun. I think the Christmas episode, just like that last week of work, is just, you have fun, you goof off, you play with your friends, and, you know, just have a good time and maybe not take things as serious. And yeah, it comes through, and it's just, I think, a more fun and episode.
Yeah, and there's only been 2 in the past 20 Christmas episodes. We had 0 cameos, one of which was Austin Butler last year, which probably, as we now look back on, is kind of known more as Cecily's Goodbye than a Christmas episode, but it was a great fit. And then Robert De Niro in 2004. So we had no Christmas episode in 07 because of the writer's strike. But other than that, past 20 Christmas shows, only 2 episodes that had no cameos. So, John, what is your opinion on, especially this case? We had a former cast member hosting, but when Christmas episodes coming up on SNL, is that your hope, or are you kind of indifferent and just say, if the show's good, the show's good?
No, I love it. This is like what I dream about when I start thinking about who's going to host the Christmas show, like which cameos are going to be there. It's my most exciting. It's like when I become like a little boy when I think about SNL. It's like this type of stuff. I absolutely love the idea of having the perfect MC host the night, walk around Studio 8H. You don't know who's going to pop out of what, random area of the hallway. Like that is so much fun. You mentioned the Martin Short episode. I just watched that because I'm covering that this week on That Week in SNL. I did a guest spot there, and going back and watching that episode, just him walking through the hallway. I know Jimmy Fallon does the same thing. Like it's just so exciting to do that. And like with this episode, we got some really fun ones, including Maya and Kristen, and like them getting in a couple sketches was just so wonderful. The fact that Jason Sudeikis was in the audience and he was with the whole Ted Lasso cast and he like didn't appear in the episode, I was like, damn, like that would have been so good to just like have him appear for that. But yeah, I love Christmas episodes for me on Saturday Night Live. I love the fact that the cast was still involved, but we still got some really fun moments too.
I remember watching the show live and thinking Kate's gonna pop out in the cold open and say live from New York. As you know, John, she's second behind Daryl with most LFNYs of all time. And I thought her first time hosting is like the ultimate live from New York, even if she popped out as Kate McKinnon herself and not like Giuliani or somebody. So again, going in with those expectations can sometimes hurt the episode the first watch. Second watch, I think my only regret was that they didn't do behind the scenes monologue, because Kate McKinnon, as I mentioned, ran the show for so long that seeing a Lauren or seeing her old castmates, including Kristen and Maya, even though she wasn't really a castmate with them, but anybody like that, I think would have been great. I did enjoy the Kate monologue, but in hindsight, we got no Kate on Update or Cold Open. I think the monologue would have been might have been an all-timer if it was a Kate-led backstage monologue. Do you agree with that, John?
I do, but again, I do think this is a little bit of a unique situation where Kate was talking about how uncomfortable she is being herself, and that would have required Kate to, there being sort of like a little bit of an extra element there of like Kate guiding us through Studio 8H, and it just maybe wouldn't have felt as natural. So even if it's what we would have wanted, I think they played it well for her, where she was able to be vulnerable, talk about that stuff, and then bring in the 2 cameos on stage. So I think the idea, like, in theory, it makes sense. In practice, Kate is probably not the right person to take us through the studio.
I think I disagree, because the fast-paced nature and Kate being Kate would have come through more than kind of being like bearing all in front of at home base and just looking at the camera and looking at the audience. I think that's probably what made Kate most uncomfortable. So that would have been a time where it's people just popping in and out. You see the llama, you see Abe Lincoln, you see the dancers. Lauren's there with a glass of red wine, and it just rapid fire. Like, I think Kate thrives in those like energetic scenarios where I know that Kate just looking at the audience and being like, I'm Kate McKinnon, seemingly that's where she's least comfortable. Victoria, just thinking about all these Christmas episodes and all these great cameos we've had for the past 20 Christmas episodes, was there anything that you were looking for in this episode that you did not see, or just what makes SNL Christmas great?
I actually, if I'm being very honest, I do love a big Christmas musical number. I don't know if you remember, again, just to go back to Fallon's, when he walked through the hallways, and then when they all did the, all gathered together on stage. I just think it's so fun. I also just wanted a song. So like doing my twin bed or something like that
We got the
to get
tampon
us.
farm song.
That's not a song. That's a jingle.
Oh, it's a great song.
I've been singing the harmony to that song all day.
Yeah. We are very pro tampon farm.
As a woman, I'm honored and thank you for being allies. No, I mean I just wanted something, more Christmas musical. Like I remember like the Adele Thanksgiving song. I love that type of stuff. So that's what I was missing. I mean, I love Tampon Farm, and that's actually how tampons are made. Fun fact for everybody listening. I just would have wanted something more holiday centric.
Yeah, I mean, we got Kate singing a Christmas song. I'll be home for Christmas. I can't think of a more apropos thing to sing when you're hosting SNL, where you can call home on Christmas. But I agree that the high energy can be good, but I'm not backtracking, but I'm saying that having Kristen and Maya, flank Kate and just come out, and the warmth that gave me, no regrets at all. But we did have a, double whammy of a show to cover, because not only was it a Christmas SNL show, it was also a alumni show. So I was thinking about, we've now at SNN covered a bunch of them, and I have stats on a lot of them. So I pulled up all the recent former cast member hosted episodes from Adam Sandler to Kate, looked at the screen time that they got in those episodes, and then for fun to look back at their career, a little retrospective. John helped me out and gave me the career appearances while they were in the cast, so we can look at those as well. And then I little follow up to last week's By the Numbers about what cast members work with the hosts most. I threw in the top 3 screen time getters of the cast in that episode. So as I mentioned earlier, Sudeikis, maybe unbreakable record, 34 minutes of screen time in his. We had Sandler at 27-26 when he hosted it back in season 44. And, Kate was right up there. So she's behind Pete, but ahead of Molly Shannon, and ahead 2 seconds shy of Maya Rudolph. So I have up here, if you want to look at on YouTube, the screen time for all those hosts. Victoria, when you look at these, I'm sure you've seen these all because they're very recent, but what makes a great return to home? I'll be home for Christmas in Kate's sake.
Oh man, I'm looking at this and I didn't realize how high Adam Sandler was. I don't know, it felt like less of him in his episode, but nonetheless, I think, and I'm also seeing a lot of Beck Bennett, so not R.I.P. because he's still alive and well, but R.I.P. to him on the show. I mean,
In our world, R.I.P.
In our world, R.I.P.
You can still hear him as Buffalo Wild Wings Buffalo, so if you miss him.
Wait, actually?
Yeah, on the commercials, he's the voice of the Buffalo Wild Wing Buffalo.
I'm so happy for him. I haven't seen that. No, I mean, I think overall, what I'm looking at here is his top 3 cast members who are alongside the host are just the icons that we know and love of the show, and they're strong in their presence, but I think they just help elevate. But I'm trying to make some sort of connection. It's kind of weird because, like, for McKinnon, I wouldn't think it would be Bowen, Chloe, and Zsa. Like, if I had to put together an episode, it would be Heidi and Ego, just because that female power and female empowerment. But does that make sense?
It makes sense. I'm also just shocked that Keenan's not in the top 3. That's crazy. We've been tracking Keenan this year, and he's been a little bit more in the background screen time wise. And I figured this would be like a 10-minute Keenan episode with or without the cameos. John, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the Keenan thing's interesting for me. I know you've been touching on it week to week. I have theory that Keenan has sort of just taken a big step back due to his outside the show obligations. He had Good Burger 2 coming out. He just had his memoir come out, or a book of his that he's been promoting like crazy. I think he was just on Colbert. Like, he's been all over the place outside the show. So I do think that the data is there to track a Keenan decline. But if he doesn't have the projects that he had in the fall to promote in the spring, I wonder if he will springboard back and get to the top of the screen time week after week and slowly rise up the power rankings again. If he doesn't, then we are probably looking at the other side of a career peak at that point and heading back down the slope for him towards wherever that goes, if he was going to leave the show eventually. But yeah, I think that is fascinating. I love that this was what you put together, Mike, because I just find it really interesting to think about, these returning alumni hosts versus non-alumni hosts, and just how dominant they are, just how much the show revolves around them even more, how much easier it is probably to write for them, because not only is there recurring characters that they can bring back, but the sketch formats are in place to put these people in positions to succeed. So I think, given, or I'd say barring Wig 45, Rock 46, and then Wig 46, which were all hampered by COVID protocols in different ways, if you were to remove them, like the average screen time here must be like about, 24 minutes, I'd say, which is probably pretty high compared to non-alumni screen time. So it goes to show you that the show becomes really invested in these hosts when they return to the show versus, let's say, outsiders.
Oh, absolutely. And I was just checking that right now. So if I look at all the hosts combined, so that includes the alum, the average host screen time for an SNL episode is 20 minutes, 19 seconds across the board. So everybody included. And just to check on John's point, actually, I'll eliminate right now. I'll eliminate the at-home Wig episode, Chris Rock 46 premiere, and Kristen Wiig in 46 Christmas show. And the average is 25 minutes, 38 seconds. So right there, we have 5.5 minutes more host if you are an SNL alum. So if you take one stat home for Christmas to tell your family and inform them, that might be it. So 5.5 minutes more screen time for the host if they're an alum of the cast.
That's a great way to stop the political talk.
Yeah, for sure. And exactly. And naturally, when you get the host in 5 extra minutes of screen time, when you bring an alumni back, you're going to take that 5 minutes away from other cast members. So you start to think about how the rest of the cast is affected by these choices, which, again, it is all very fascinating and always fun in the case of having an alumni for a premiere like Pete, a Christmas show for Kate, and then I'm fine if we don't have another alumni come back and host the show till the finale, which they haven't done in many years, but that could be exciting. And like you have those tentpole episodes that are hosted by alumni and they really dominate.
Looking at this myself right now, I actually have two takeaways. One of which is that I think I erroneously reported this earlier, so I want to correct myself, that Pete Davidson got more screen time than Kate McKinnon. That's shocking to me because of Pete's career in SNL versus Kate's. If I go back and pull up the sheet and look at Pete's average versus Kate's average as a cast member, there it's night and day. So the fact that Pete got more is surprising. I know it's because of the monologue, but even so. And my second take was that,
isn't it more because of the cold open though? Because Pete had the solo cold open directly to camera versus Kate had a whole.
But that was it was so short though. I mean, Pete's had a stand-up monologue, and it was I can look it up how long it was, but it was it was a lengthy monologue compared to a very, very short cold open that he had. I mean, it does help though. It does contribute. But is that Kate McKinnon? You think of somebody who's been the cast this long. That look at her top three. Bowen Yang, Chloe Fineman, James Austin Johnson. So we have Bowen and Chloe as 2 season 45 entries, and then JAJ as a season 47 entry. So the fact that she didn't have more screen time with the more tenured cast members, which are Keenan, Mikey, and Heidi and Ego, is a little bit of a surprise. I know that the cameos might have usurped some roles from Ego and Heidi in the case of Maya and Kristen, but that stood out to me just looking at this again now. Victoria,
Absolutely.
any final thoughts on alum hosted episodes, and do you like them?
I do like alum hosted episodes. I sometimes wish, though, not always, because it's never truly a bad episode, but I always wish like the time they leave the show to when they are seen as a host is a little bit elongated, just to give us a chance to truly miss them. I mean, we miss them the moment they leave, but just to give us that, oh, I wish I got to see them again a little bit more. But other than that, I love them, and I want Fred Armisen to host soon. It's a random thought, but I'm throwing it out there. I'm manifesting.
I would not be surprised if that does not happen. John, what do you think? He's back at the show almost. I threw out a stat earlier this year that he had cameoed every year since he's been off the cast, except one season. So Fred is never too far away.
I know, but I want him to host.
I don't think he's ever going to host again, if I'm being completely honest. But I will say on the look, we do get him very often, and I do think a lot of his cameo appearances are really strong. And he is hosting. Last time he hosted the show, again, to me, is a top 3 to 5 SNL alumni hosted episode like ever. You can argue it's the best one. So like for me, that doesn't take away anything. I just think that he's just like so accessible that I don't think we're going to see him. And if he was to host again, I think it would be because he is like permanently stopped working with Seth on his show. We haven't seen him in a very long time. And it's like, oh, this would be a really cool like alumni to bring back.
Looking back to that Kate-Pete comparison, so Weekend Update and Kate's episode took up 19.5% of the show versus Pete's, which was 22% of the show. So shorter update gives more leeway to Kate. Looking at their monologues, actually, they're pretty comparable. Kate's monologue was 6 minutes 1. Pete's was 6:34. And again, that cold open that was just Pete to camera was like a minute 34 seconds. So very short cold open and a little bit longer monologue. But Kate had 6 live sketches compared to Pete's 7. Again, also surprising. So let's look at the state of the cast entering our new year and look at the power rankings of season 49.
Can I make one complaint before you get to them, which is not about you? It's
Please
about
make 2 complaints.
All right. So at the end of season, if you were with us as a listener at the end of 2022, we were on Live from New York watch because Kate McKinnon was very close to breaking Daryl Hammond's record for Live from New York, and she finished 1 behind Daryl, which is where she stands right now. And in the second to last episode of that season, I think it was the Selena Gomez episode, she was in the cold open, but didn't say Live from New York. So we were like, no, like it's not going to happen now. So then we were just waiting and waiting and waiting and like, just like find a way SNL to get her to break this record. That's my complaint.
It's a valid complaint. And it would have been nice to have either the tying or the breaking when you host, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think she will. I have a feeling we may see Kate McKinnon sometime during the 2024 election cycle, and I could see her coming in and doing a Live from New York at some point.
And she would be playing whom?
I'm not going to put my thumb on the scale on that one, but I think they'll find a way to get her in there.
All right, fair enough. I'm interested, maybe more than usual, on Kate's post SNL cast relationship, because clearly is like a Lorne Michaels darling, gets the show more than anyone maybe, but I don't know. Kate's so private and so Kate that I don't know if she'll be a Fred Armisen and be like, yeah, I'll do it. Like she might want to be more choosy, but at the same time, John, I fully agree that when it comes to political figures, she would be a great plug-in. So I'll be waiting for that. Victoria, this is the last power ranking we're going to do of 2023. Give us the state of the cast.
All righty, Roo. Topping the list at 104.2 is Mikey Day. Then we have Bowen Yang at 96 even. Then third place is Heidi Gardner at 88.3. Colin Jost, my mom's favorite, is at 85.4. Keenan Thompson, surprise, surprise, is top 5. I thought he was going to get a little bit lower, but he's still hanging in there at 74.1. Agawodum at 67.4. Shrimp Jaj at 64.8. Then we have the one and only Chloe Fineman at 63.1. Then we have Michael Che at 60.3. Marcelo Hernandez at 57.1. Andrew Dismukes at 51.5. Sarah Squirm at 51.1. And then newbie Chloe Trost topping the bottom third at 38.9. Then there's Punky Johnson at 36.2. Devin Walker at 34.6. Mikey Longs at 34.5. And last but never least in our hearts, Molly Carney at 25.6.
Thank you, Victoria, and thank you for your exemplary reading skills in season 49 to read all this data for everybody. I appreciate it because I have to talk a lot on this podcast. I might as well unload some burden to you to read some numbers for me. So I appreciate that. So again, this is every piece of data that I have on this cast this season, all into one number. Jon Schneider is your favorite host of the Hot Take Show on Saturday nights or Sunday mornings, really, at 1:10 a.m. Eastern, following a show. And he asks his panelists hot take for that episode. So I'm asking for John's hot take on the cast, because if you're looking with us on the screen, we have some greens, yellows, and orangey reds of color coding from top to bottom. And I want to know what John thinks seeing this power ranking for the first time in a bit.
Well, I think that a very interesting trend here is, like, I always like to look at this chart that you have up on screen by looking at the last 3 episodes, so the last cycle, just, looking at the colors there and seeing, are we have any upward trends or downward trends? And I do think Chloe Fineman at place number 8 here with the 63.1 average is a very interesting trend line, where the last 3 episodes, she's at an 89.5, an 87.9, and an 89.45. So the last few episodes, she's averaged, I guess, upwards of 88, which would be 25 points higher than what she was doing for the entire season, meaning that she's on an upward trend, and you probably would want to put your money down on her to move up closer to the top 5 if she continues down this path. So that's an interesting trend line for me. The thing I always like to think about with the power rankings, Mike, was like, if your wife, Jackie, was like, hey, Mike, take our money, all of our money or half our money, go to Vegas and put it down on one person to finish number 1 in the power rankings at the end of the season. I mean, betting odds are right now, Mikey Day probably has the best odds, but do you think he's going to keep it there? Who would you put your money on right now that's going to finish at the top of the power rankings?
I mean, I just purchased a house and I have a mortgage payment coming up in January.
Time.
So yeah, it's a great time to buy, everybody. So go out and buy. Interest rates are fantastic right now. JK. So I'd have to go on Mikey if there was no Vegas line. So I mean, Mikey's line Vegas wise would be like minus 180. I would put it at. So
yeah, you need to set the lines. That has to be a call, like a new column here is the Vegas lines made by Mike Murray of like the odds of somebody finishing at the top of the power rankings.
I mean, I'll happily do it if people want to take some action, because the house always wins. So, I have a house. I'm gonna have a house. So I need that to
gambling,
come in.
Please.
It's legal in my state, Victoria. So
gamble responsibly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Gamble responsibly. Of course. So I would put, Mikey Day, just clear favorite. And I mean, they speak for themselves. We have 8 episodes. We have 12 left. Anything could happen. So I'm a little bit more interested in who's going to rise maybe to top 5, because Mikey is so far ahead of Bowen. So again, Mikey Day is at a 104.2, Bowen at a 96.0. So 8-point difference in power rankings is pretty huge. And the fact that Mikey Day is now the sitting president impersonator has to bode well for him going into the spring. So
Caveat though is that for the last three of the last 4 episodes, Bowen Yang is at a better power ranking than Mikey Day.
True facts right there. I mean, Bowen Yang had 2 George Santos cold opens in those that John's referring to. He had a 185 with Momoa, a 140 in Emma Stone. Those were 2 good cold open anchors that he did. And then, he had a great episode with Kate as well, where Mikey had a down episode with Emma Stone and a good episode with Kate, but not a great as he had with Bad Bunny, Nate Bargatze, Jason Momoa, and Adam Driver. I'm going to ask Victoria because we have some tight races. We have, again, this year in season 49, Dismukes and Sarah Sherman just trend out stat-wise, like identically. They disappear, we miss them, and when they appear, they anchor their own sketches very often. So this week we saw Sarah Sherman in the Pongo pre-tape, loved it, maybe the best pre-tape of the season in my opinion. And then we saw Dismukes with the Beep Beep sketch with Adam Driver. And by the way, if you want to become a patron, me and John analyzed the Beep Beep sketch like frame by frame. Had a great time. So great bonus if you're a patron to get those extra podcasts. So Victoria,
we do the same thing with Pongo. Tomorrow is coming out on the Patreon feed. So if you're a patron of ours, Bill and I just went through everything from Pongo. That'll be up tomorrow for patrons.
Love it. I mean, he has no holes. So Victoria, in the middle here, we have some tight races. Andrew and Sarah. They're both fractions away from each other. We also have Chloe and JJ, who are about 1.7 apart. So if you had to pick a horse there, are you betting underdog? And again, if I had to do some Vegas lines, you win more money at underdog. So for John's question, I had to do no brainer with Mikey, but if I was going to give you close odds, you go in Chloe or JJ, first question. Finish the season, by the way. So finale in May. Who's going to be ahead, JJ or Chloe?
Chloe.
And then Dismukes or Sarah?
Sarah.
All right, so we're going 2 dogs for Victoria. John, you want to weigh in?
I would put JJ because I think he's going to be very involved in like the political stuff that's happening in the spring. So I think JJ and Chloe both rise in the rankings. I think they're going to both be above Ego, but I think JJ might squeeze out both of them. So I'd go there. Andrew Dismukes, if there's anything we learned from analytics over the last few years, is that he is a very host-dependent cast member. I think Haskell once made that take as well. So I think he's more host-specific, whereas Sarah can get on like a pretty big hot streak. Like from last year, I think from like Steve and Marty through to Butler, through to Plaza, through to Michael B. Jordan, I think she had like a crazy hot streak. So she can go on a run that would boost her above Andrew, whereas I think Andrew will have like every 3 or 4 episodes, he'll really pop like he did in Momoa.
Definitely. And I have to point out the biggest, or sorry, I should say smallest difference is Devin Walker and Michael Longfellow, after 8 episodes, almost have an identical power ranking. Devin Walker at a 34.6 and Michael Longfellow at a 34.5. And keep in mind, this accounts for every second of screen time, every appearance, every little detail, and they're that close. It would be easy to pick Michael Longfellow to rise because he had such a very poor stat-wise start with Bad Bunny and Chalamet. He scored under a 10, where Devin Walker has been more consistent, but Michael Longfellow had a great episode with Emma Stone because he was on Update, and Momoa as well. So he's had all in the red other than those 2 episodes where Devin's been like, he's got a 51, a 41, a 53, a 53. So Devin Walker has been more consistent, but I would bet on Michael Longfellow finishing 14 or 13 if, high, lower ceiling, but Devin Walker will probably stay down there. John, do you agree with that?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I still think like everybody's trying to figure out like what Devin's thing is. Devin had a runner that was cut from this episode where he played a DJ Reginald, who would come in between sketches and talk about how like Kate once hit him with a car. So like a weird runner that we used to get in olden days of the show that Devin tried for this episode and it got cut between dress and air. So like that's the type of thing I think, he would have been solo to camera, is my understanding. So like he would have had a clear boost in this episode. I still think he's trying to figure out his place and how to, write for himself and have other people write for him. Whereas I think Michael Longfellow has more of a voice on the show at this point. Like people know what his shtick is. They just haven't had enough spots for him to do it.
I agree, but I feel like as a viewer and a fan, Devin Walker is finally seeming very comfortable in the sketches. So I've been happy with him in the sketches, where before he had some great moments, but was kind of, we didn't really know what to think about him because he was either not in it at all or was in a very small capacity. And I think he could become a great B player, like a Chloe or Melissa, people like that are just like great plug-in people.
Yeah, I'll also say like Big Filthy, maybe my favorite character so far in season 49.
You want to make 30K tonight?
I do.
All right, well,
only from you, Big Filthy.
You just gotta bet on, Devin, Michael, or Molly to finish first, and I'll have to cook the book so we can make 30K.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, so I just wanted to last update, just John being here after Chalamet, which is episode 4. And just to give you, if you follow the show week to week, first of all, I love you with all my heart. Second of all, we watch this trend every week. And I figured that we just had episode 8, look back to episode 4, look at who the biggest risers and followers were. Longfellow, since John's last appearance on By the Numbers, up 111%. Again, aided by the Momoa and Emma Stone episodes. Chloe Fineman up 43%. Bowen up 41%. Dismukes up 36%. And Molly up 21%. And the cast members who have fallen, not necessarily in the rankings, but in their average score, are JJ 9% down, Keenan 12% down, Mikey 13% down. He had a huge start. Devin 17% down, and Punky 20% down. So that's how we've changed in just 4 episodes.
Yeah, I'd say the Punky one is the one I'm a little bit more disappointed about. I think that there's definitely including her more than they did the last couple of years. I'm happy she's not at the bottom of the list anymore, but I would love them to go back to giving her a chance to bring out some cool characters. And I do think like a host like Jacob Elordi, where we have no expectations, like those are the episodes where some of the less traditional cast members that you would expect to see all over the show tend to do very well in those episodes. So I'm hoping we'll get to see more from somebody like Punky, who's been quiet for the last couple of weeks, perhaps at the start of the year.
Yeah,
and
give
Molly.
me Punky in the 40s. I want to see Punky finish in the 40s, please. She's at a 36 right now. It's not too much to ask. Just get Punky at a 40 or above to finish. She was in season 46, 47, 48. Now we're in 49. 4 years in, you got to average of 40. Let's go. Get Punky in more stuff.
And Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Victoria. Birthday boy coming up soon. 5 days. All right. So I have to, this is By the Numbers. We've been doing it for a long time. John, we haven't talked about this yet. Kristen Wiig throwing out her career sketch total. What went through your brain and what did you feel in your heart when you heard Kristen Wiig in a very high profile monologue reference some SNL stats?
I loved every minute of it. I don't know for sure, but I do believe that the reference, though it led to a Wikipedia bit, and that was probably the reason to put that in there, may have stemmed from the fact that, we've been doing this top 50 cast member countdown, and we've been putting the cards up that our wonderful team made. Ellis and Matt worked really hard on those, and to make those cards where we have all the stats, like basically like the back of the baseball card type thing that we put up on Instagram of everybody that says their career sketch totals and sketch per episode averages. I know that like people of the show have like spotted those, so perhaps that led to a line here or there where people know that we do talk about these types of analytics. So did I ever expect them to mention us by name? Like, I don't think Lauren would let that happen, but I do think it was, it's always cool. It reminded me a lot of the Miles Teller Cold Open last year where they did the Manning cast, and it was like, you know, a variation on the stuff that we do. So maybe one day.
I was about to mention the Manning cast Miles Teller Open because I think that was in the first time my podcast career at the SNN that like my heart like really sped up, as in they're not gonna like go there, right? Like talk about like SNL analysis during
Same thing happened
SNL.
to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, can I tell a fun story? So I don't think he would mind me saying this. Joel from SNL Archives, I was talking to him, and he told me that if you guys remember the King of Catchphrase comedy sketches, that they did a couple of those where I was like during the Seth Meyers era where they would all come out and play like different comedians, and they couldn't figure out what to do for Seth when he was, I think, Boston Powers. So the line originally in that sketch was, and just so Seth gets a character on SNL Archives, Boston Powers, and then Lauren like nixed it to not mention SNL Archives in the sketch, and I just thought that was like a really funny anecdote.
yeah, that is a great anecdote, and that's probably the best evidence we have that any mention of By the Numbers, SNN, SNL stats, probably not likely, but it's at least adjacent to what we're doing. So,
Sure.
and Kristen said she was in 38,000 sketches, and we had a chart
It's
up
true.
earlier.
Oh.
If it's on Wikipedia, it's true. But
Right.
I totaled Maya, Kristen, and Kate's career 2,071. So close. Kristen.
Close. Yeah. I was going to say, if I'm ever on the show, I would throw into my lines by the number. And then if I was on a fake TV show or a fake network, I would call it SNN. So I would wink.
Well, now you've
Or
outed
you could
yourself
just
as a sleeper agent.
Yeah, exactly. Or you could just name your
Flip us out.
character Jon Schneider or something like that.
Jon Schneider. I would.
Wouldn't hurt.
Would you like to? I mean, I could do an impression of you. I think.
Yeah, if you'd like, go ahead.
Not
Yeah,
now. No.
Let's debut it right now.
No.
Yes.
New Year.
Let's see. Host Jon Schneider, musical guest Tony Braxton, Victoria.
What? Mike, I disagree.
Oh, great John impression right there.
Mike,
Sounded so much like me. Yeah.
I disagree. And in full transparency, go Cubs. That's my John impression.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Not too bad. All right. Well, this has been such a great season. I mean, we had Mikey Day giving us shout outs. John interviewed him and he was a big fan of the numbers. We've had interactions with cast members about the numbers. So the numbers matter, people. I mean, if you're listening, you know that already, but just huge thanks to, to Blood, to Ken, Demi, John, anyone in the chat, Scott, Gelp. Like, you guys are all great. I mean, Eric, big fan. So if you're in the chat and follow with us and send great questions and all that, it makes the show better. So really appreciate you. I appreciate Victoria a lot and John a lot. It's been such a fun year. So Victoria, give us your final send off for 2023.
All right. Well, it's been an honor to be on this show, and thank you for thinking of me. And sorry for all the times I went a little too spicy or was a little too out of pocket, but I'm also not, because it is what it is, and I am who I am, and I cannot and will not change. But no, seriously, it's been so fun. I love spending my Wednesday nights with you and sometimes John. Not too much though, because we just have to keep it professional. That was not my John impersonation. I'm so sorry. But yeah, if you're in the Detroit area, December 30th, I'm performing at Go Comedy at 7:30 and 9:30 p.m. in the Showdowns. And then after that, in the new year, you can find me on Wednesdays at IO performing there too. More details to come. And maybe you'll find me around the Saturday Night Network. So it's not goodbye, of course. It's just I'll see you later in a different capacity.
Well, we loved having you, and we'll see you again soon. And yes, that is right. It is time for Jon Schneider to give us a sign off as well.
Woo!
Thanks for coming back.
Yeah, great job so far. The first half of the season to both of you, Victoria. So obviously you won't be with us every week for By the Numbers, but we do hope to get you back eventually onto the show because I think you are so fantastic and get all of your crazy commentary, fun trivia, fun laughs about, even going so far as to, think of sexually lewd trivia week after week about chocolate Santas. Love it. Love every minute of all that.
Sorry, Mom.
Stuff. Yeah, so appreciate you, Victoria, and we're gonna have a lot of fun second half of the year with this. So in case you missed our Kate McKinnon coverage from the beginning of the week, Hot Take Show Roundtable was great. We also have the patron show coming out tomorrow. So we talked about Pongo. You can go check that one out. It was a lot of fun, a lot of really fun things we didn't even notice in the original sketch that we found when we went through it again with Bill Kenny. And then tomorrow night, live here, get ready. It all comes down to this. Months and months, we have been speculating who the top 3 cast members are in the history of Saturday Night Live as voted by you. Thousands of people marked their ballots, and we are going to reveal who the top 3 are tomorrow night. I will put my final top 50 rankings out for the world. So it'll be a great show if you want to join us tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern. And this won't be the last time, I believe, that you'll hear from Mike and I on a By the Number show before we get back to Saturday Night Live, because Mike and I in the new year at some point will get together for a mid-season By the Numbers and talk about everything so far and preview as we get closer to 2024 what type of numbers we may expect to see.
Absolutely. So we got some good coverage coming up, and we will see you very soon for BTN 40. We'll hopefully make it a good one for you. Thank you so much, everybody. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Let's have a great 2024. Thank you so much. For Victoria Franso, Jon Schneider, I am Mike Murray of the SNN. We will see you soon.